Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to get a first in psychology. My name is Kaya. I recently graduated with a first and I'm now a PhD student. I've got my notes with me here so I can go through all the things that I've noted down that I found helpful. Of course, a first is not necessary for every sort of job in psychology. Of course, you can definitely get where you need to go or where you want to go with a different grade. But for those of you who have your heart set on getting a first, I've wrote down some of the things that really helped me get there. So the first and objectively the most important part of doing well and getting a first is having the motivation to do well. Whatever the reason is that you want to get a certain grade, I think it's clear that from whatever we do, we need the motivation and drive to do so. I think it's really helpful to draw on why you want to do this degree. I think it's really important to know why you want to do this degree. Remind yourself why you want to go down this path. Even if you don't want to continue a career in psychology, it can be a really helpful stepping stone if you do get good marks. So personally, a lot of my motivation came from my placement year. Luckily, I did a sandwich course, so I did 4 years, with the third year being placement year. And I found this so helpful, firstly for learning a lot about clinical work in a clinical setting in psychology. When I returned back to uni for my final year, I had a lot more drive because I knew what I wanted to do, so it helped me a lot in that way. So I think I drew upon it a lot in my final year when things got tough. I kind of remembered how much I enjoyed placement year and that I can do it and it's fine. I think for motivation as well, having something maybe to remind you of why you want to do well, maybe like a vision board or something like that to kind of encourage you when things get tough, because it will get tough. I think reflecting back on my final year experience, I'm super grateful for all the times that I went to the library when I didn't want to. Saying that you should still rest, definitely still rest, but I think staying on top of things and staying motivated and driven to do well definitely helps. So my next tip is to target your reading. I say this because you can't do absolutely every piece of reading unless you have capacity and you want to do all the reading, but it's unlikely that you will find every bit of reading interesting, so I wouldn't do that to yourself. Most universities provide a reading list for each module, so for us in final year we had quite a lot of modules, and then each one on our library service we could go and see all of our reading in essential, desirable, and then like further reading. So what I would do, if you know your assessment, if it's going to be coursework, if you already have your question, etc., then you can target your reading around what you need to do rather than overwhelming yourself with absolutely everything. I think with this, it kind of goes into my next point, but I think it's really relevant, is that having a system for your reading is really important because it can feel really overwhelming. I think especially if you have a lot of modules or your reading list is super long, having some kind of, so I organise mine in an Excel spreadsheet, put all of them in the recommended, desirable, further sections, and so I could kind of go through each one. Again, this is kind of going into another point, I think they all kind of merge anyway, is that for your dissertation, I found it so helpful to every bit of reading, even when I started my literature review at the very beginning, things that might not even be relevant to the final piece, is to list absolutely everything down and make notes on each paper. If you don't have time to do like detailed notes, that's absolutely fine, but having a system where you can see what you've read, and because there's so many times that I would be like writing or reading something and I'll be like, oh, that reminds me of A, B, and C. So if you have this Excel document, you can quickly search it, find it, and it just makes everything a lot quicker. I think also I did find it helpful, especially for my dissertation, but it will probably be effective for all of your reading, is to and I learned this from my career service as well, so linking with them, is that it can be really helpful to make columns next to the paper of like, what is novel about this paper, anything that like sticks out to you. And then it can be helpful to just put a little referencing column as well, so you can like quickly just reference it properly. So in-text citation and then referencing list citation. It makes it a lot easier when you do that. Kind of leading on from that, it can be helpful to get referencing websites, reliable referencing websites, where you can kind of put the URL in of the paper and it will come up with a reference in the right format. So I used APA 7th edition, so it's quite simple to use and you can kind of see straight away if it's correct or not. It is helpful to double check though, you don't want to lose marks for referencing. So to summarize that point is target your reading. It's unlikely that you'll be able to do it all and be able to absorb it all in a good quality, so I found it super helpful to target my reading to get the most out of it, and I actually enjoyed it. The third point is organisation. This leads quite well from targeted reading because it's kind of the same, following the same kind of path, but having a system for everything helps so much. Well, with me anyway, I'm that kind of person that organisation and systems help. I think especially if you're a visual person, having some kind of template, calendar, visual resource that you can look at to kind of see where you are, because I think especially in final year, you're doing a lot of things at once. So seeing everything visually can kind of help you feel a little less overwhelmed and attack things one at a time. Because with us, we had a lot of modules and we had dissertation, so kind of doing week by week, this is what I've got, these are my seminars, lectures, etc. And then deadlines like week by week, that helps so much to kind of visualize and make things a little less overwhelming. So my fourth point / tip is dissertation. To get a first, your dissertation is really, really important, because I think most psychology courses are BPS accredited, but check if it's not, if you want to go into psychology. But do double check if it is or isn't, if you're unsure, because that is needed to go into a psychological career, psychology career. So my point with dissertation is that it is worth a lot of credits. I think for us it was worth 40 credits, which is a substantial amount. For me, I think doing well in my dissertation really helped me to secure that first. I think I would have struggled without that. But yeah, so your dissertation is a substantial amount of your work. I think for us it did equate to about 4 modules of work. So yeah, if you are in a position like me and you're not so good with exams, you're better with coursework and like longer written pieces, then there is hope. There is hope if you plan, as long as you plan it well and manage your time. I think managing time is definitely an overlaying factor for all of these tips. It is really important. If I haven't mentioned it yet and you're unsure of what a dissertation is, it's basically a long, detailed written report which you should have like the majority of the year to work on. Depending on how your university works and the system, you might be able to get your own topic. Like luckily I got to choose my own topic, or you choose from your supervisors, or you can work in groups. There's lots of different ways of doing it. It's basically an 8,000 to 10,000 word piece of work. Some can be a lot shorter depending on whether it's quantitative, so statistics, or qualitative. Mine is qualitative, so mine was super long. But try not to worry with this. Although it is a really big piece of work, you have a lot of support. Your lecturers and your university will understand that this is most likely the first time that you're doing this bigger piece of work. I'm not sure if that's a sentence, but the first time that you're doing such a big piece of work, basically. So you'll have support there, you'll have supervision. I would say utilize as much supervision as possible, as much as you feel comfortable with without getting overwhelmed. I had bi-weekly supervision and I found that really helpful. 1, for staying on track with my dissertation and my project timeline, and 2, for managing my time with other commitments, with things outside of university, with my other modules, yeah, because there are a lot of demands on you. And hopefully your university will provide a lot of sessions and support. For us, we had, I think it was weekly sessions on things like ethics, how to avoid plagiarism, what else, like research proposals. So we had it at each stage, and it felt really appropriate for the stage that we were at. But my main point with dissertation is that yes, it's worth a lot of credits, yes, it can pull you up from a 2-1 to a first, for example, but at the same time, don't be overwhelmed. There's been so many people that have done dissertations before, got through, they've survived, so you can do it as well. So my 5th tip / piece of advice is try to access as much support and advice from other people as you can. For me, I found it super helpful to connect with other people on my course who wanted to do well. So I think peer support is really important. I think connecting with other like-minded people is really motivating, and can be really helpful when you feel overwhelmed, or kind of sometimes even to just decompress and do something else. For me, luckily, I found a good group of friends in my final year, so we could do study sessions, we could spend time in the library together. I also think that linking in with other people going through the same stress as you. So I remember in March when we were doing our dissertation, everyone would be talking about how stressed they are, but it's kind of that shared stress that helps. Also, your university and your lecturers want you to do well. They don't want to make things harder on you. They want you to do well. They've got into this job for a reason. And I think, especially as a final year student, you have to show initiative. And I think this comes back to remembering your why. Why are you here? What are you doing? What do you want to achieve out of this? Because most of the time, lecturers and supervisors, etc., are very busy people. So it really helps to have some notes or have something prepared for when you go to your supervision or go to meetings, so that you can get the most out of that time. And what we had as well for specific modules is we could book appointments with that lecturer, so we could go through things that we were unsure of, ask for more guidance on reading, things like that. You might get the opportunity to have some formative assessments, so kind of like a mock assessment, and you can get some feedback. And feedback is really, really important, so ask for that. Another kind of sub point in that is your uni will likely have a student support centre for specific help. So this kind of covers both academic and well-being. Your university should provide some kind of student support service. So I found it really helpful to book with the student support team with referencing, because I found that really hard at the beginning. Things like academic writing, plagiarism, how to avoid plagiarism. I would say make the most out of it while you can, especially if you're entering final year and it's before you are getting the ball rolling with your dissertation. You might have a little bit more time, so I would say use that time wisely. I think my final point is that it's really important to decompress as well. Although university and your degree is really important and you've likely worked really hard up until this point, I think having some downtime and rest and time to recuperate is really important. I think especially for those of you who have jobs outside of university, other commitments, you know, I don't think I would be a good psychology student or now postgrad if I didn't emphasize the importance of rest and recuperation. I think especially in the early stages, because it does get tough towards the end. I think to summarize what I've said, and as cringy as it sounds, you really can achieve whatever you want to achieve. You just need to put your mind to it and have determination and belief in yourself that you can achieve, and you will. Thank you for getting to the end of the video. I hope you found some things helpful. I think it's important to note that these are the things that have worked for me. Everybody is different. This is just my advice and what has benefited me. I think take what you think might be helpful and adjust that to you, your own learning style. But I'm going to link a few psychology related YouTube channels that I found really, really helpful to watch and really inspiring. So hopefully you'll find that too.